And then he paid me the greatest compliment that I could be paid.
Which was?
And he said, be honest.
Oh, yeah.
How much? Then he asked you, how much steroids does Eddie take?
Yeah.
I was
He
like,
asked me, he's like, come on, Janelle, be honest. I was like, when we were bodybuilding, I told him if he did that and it impacted his penis in any way, we were done. Hey guys, welcome back to the Push Podcast. I'm Janelle Copeland.
And I'm Edward Copeland, and it is fantastic to be here. What a wonderful day spending time with you, my love.
Oh, you're just so sweet. Listen, we did a podcast last week that people are pretty obsessed with, and it's about women's hormones, menopause, all the things people don't tell you that could potentially ruin your vagina, ruin your sex life, ruin your relationship, your marriage.
And your mind.
And your mind and your bones and all of the things. So if you haven't checked it out, go listen to that episode.
Yeah.
It's something about a broken vagina. That was the title. And in this episode, we thought it was only fair and fitting to talk about the complexities that men go through as they age. And so we have so many guests that we have sent out a ton of emails to, doctors, experts in the health industry, in the erectile dysfunction industry.
Right.
And so we're going to share what we learned while researching this. Why? Because we said in the last episode, as we get older, like we're trying to figure out how to stay on top of our health, how to keep our love life fresh and active, how to not get old, shriveled up, and wrinkly,
Right.
and not how to not lose our minds, get dementia, osteoporosis, and all of the things.
All the things that I think that most people would want to avoid.
Right.
And the key thing is this: if you have a man in your life, and you should be listening to this.
Yes.
Right. Whether this person is a spouse, brother, son, whatever it is. Just like if you were a man, go to the last episode. If you're a male, if you're a man, go to the last episode. I don't know why that sounded weird. And, check out what we talked about, because I think that the more you know what's going on in your loved one's life and what could be going on with their body, when you see changes, all those things are really helpful to make sure that you make whatever necessary adjustments to live a healthy and to live with vitality.
Right.
Right.
And I think I'll kick it off, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
kick it off.
We were overwhelmed last week with so many messages and emails. And so if you want to send an email, send it to Push Podcast. Wait, what is the email? I got to look at the email. I'll give you guys the email, but you could send it to eddieandjanelle@gmail.com. Let's start there. And then I'll link it in the show
Or you can go
notes.
to our Instagram, our TikTok, and you can just
We are the Copeland.
Yeah, and just
Push
leave a DM.
Podcast. Yeah. So we'll leave that in the show notes, but lots of people sent messages. A few of them want to remain anonymous, but they wanted to share some deeply personal things that they thought would help some of the listeners with today's episode. And so I'm going to read one to you really quick. So this woman says, I'm sharing something deeply personal that my husband and I have been trying to navigate in hopes that it might help others who are feeling isolated and maybe going through some similar struggles. I'm in my mid 40s, and over the past year, I noticed that my husband, who's a bit older, has been having difficulty maintaining an erection during sex. At first, my reaction was far from understanding. I felt rejected, unattractive, and unfortunately, I let those feelings show in ways that I'm not proud of. It took a heartfelt conversation from a close friend to see things from a different perspective. My friend gently pointed out that my husband was likely facing his own internal battles, filled with embarrassment and inadequacy, and that my responses were probably not helping the situation. So it was a wake-up call for me. Taking this to heart, I decided to change my approach, and instead of reacting with frustration, I initiated an open and compassionate dialogue with my husband. I made it clear that I was there for him, ready to support him through whatever he needed, whether it be a medical consultation, therapy, or simply just understanding and being patient. This shift towards communication and empathy has made a significant difference in our relationship. He's opened up to me about his fears and struggles, and together we're trying to take the right steps to address the issue without placing blame or shame. It's brought us closer together, and transforming a challenging situation into an opportunity of strength in a way to strengthen our bond. So it goes on and on, but basically That's the gist of it.
Yeah.
And I think that on both parts, right? If the woman's going through something, I think the key to every relationship, it sounds so cliche, but it always comes down to communication. If you feel like it's a safe space to communicate something that you're insecure about with your partner, then I think together you can probably overcome anything. But I have so many friends even that practice avoidance, you know,
Right.
like they get pissed off at their spouses, and these are men and women, and they just choose silent treatment or avoidance, or they'd rather talk to a friend about it versus talking to the actual person that they have a problem with. And so, you know, just again, I think communication on all fronts is always the right answer.
Yeah, because I think that what most people, and it's basically, insinuated in that message, that when sex has fallen off the cliff, then it's naturally because this person's no longer attracted to me. It's
Right.
naturally because they don't find me sexy anymore, or any of those things. And I think that, just like we talked about in the last podcast, like there are things that go on hormonally that impact people in a way that they can't control.
Right.
And because they can't control it, there's a lot of misunderstanding with it, and they don't even understand what's going on with their own body.
Well, I think there's
And
a lot of
so
shame.
it's a lot of shame, but I think what ends up happening, especially when we don't know what's going on with us as human beings, I think we have to find an answer. And so I think that we go to the easiest thing, right? And that may be from a projection standpoint. We may point out things that are no longer attractive about the person. And it may be true, but it also may not necessarily be that true,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or we may find other reasons to validate why we feel this way, because we don't know that it's actually something that's going on with us from a hormone standpoint that's impacting everything else. And so I think that this misunderstanding festers, and I think you see a lot of long-term relationships break apart
Right.
because of these things. And I think that as we get more and more and do more and more research, we're finding, oh my goodness, like this is not only impacting women, but it also impacts men. And I think one of the things we're going to get into is we all really know a lot about erectile dysfunction, but we also don't necessarily really understand all the other elements that are impacting men when it comes to having low testosterone.
Yeah, I don't know that I know a lot about erectile dysfunction. I just know, hey, you're having trouble getting hard.
Right.
And that probably could impact a relationship or two or three or however many you have. But I also kind of am a bit biased and jaded. Like, you guys have, stuff to help with that. and that's not necessarily the case for women. There are
Right.
some things that you can do. And again, that's why we'll bring on an expert. But I think you have more resources, and there's more, what we talked about in the last episode, there's more science, there's more data, there's more research, there's more funding. And that's
But just like
sucky.
anything else, like in kind of Western medicine, and I put in quotes, most of the things that you'll see out there in the marketplace solve the symptoms of low testosterone. Right. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear. Like, erectile dysfunction is a symptom of low testosterone. It is not the end all be all. And so I think that what you'll find is Viagra's out there.
Right.
You find all of these things that help you get it up.
But we want to know why it stopped getting up.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's the main thing that I think we want to focus in on and make sure that people understand, like, hey, how do you prevent it? And maybe how do you get it back?
Right.
Right. Because the body is an amazing thing. It can recover really well if you do the right things.
Right. And that's not the same for our vaginas, but
Right.
oh well.
Right.
I do have another letter I'll read later, because
Yeah.
another listener wrote in about, well, I'll just kind of briefly share it. But she was saying that in her late 40s, her and her husband, who had been married for like a decade, he began showing like noticeable lack of interest during intimacy or with intimacy. They basically stopped having sex. She thought it was her again, right? And then for women, it's like a lack of emotional intimacy as well.
Right.
And so you feel disconnected. You feel like your bond's being severed. You feel like, like it's just not the same, your relationship, and something has to change. But women, I think, internalize that there's something like fundamentally wrong with them.
Right.
And so she says that, for a decade we navigated our lives together, yet so apart. It seemed like the gap was widening with each year, and it was just a silent struggle that we barely acknowledged, right? So it wasn't until they divorced, went their separate ways, that basically he had a moment of vulnerability, confided in her that he was diagnosed with low testosterone after they broke up.
Wow.
And then, you know, it was like a bitter pill to swallow because, like, now you want to be there to support him, but also our marriage is severed and we didn't have the proper communication. So she goes on to date, finds a guy who's mid 50s, and they have wild, crazy sex. And she's having a blast and everything's great until now things start to kind of change with her. But basically, she says that the guy she was having sex with, she was like, oh my God, like, this is great. And then he had a heart attack. And then they stopped having sex, but then she started having body changes too. And then it was like, now she's kind of putting the pieces together. And she's like, I think he had a heart attack, maybe because he was taking Viagra. And then now it's impossible for us to come together based on her and him.
Right.
And so that relationship's just kind of like in limbo now because there's not really any conversations about it. It's a lot of speculation.
Right. And that's really tough.
Right.
Because I think that, you know, men have a tough time like going to the doctor and doing a lot of things to check. And so low testosterone goes undetected and undiagnosed in most cases, right? And so, you know, I think that I saw a study that said that approximately 24% of men have a total testosterone levels less than 300 ng. So basically, I think that's nanograms.
24% of men have low testosterone.
Right. So 1 out of 4 men are struggling with low testosterone. And obviously that percentage changes depending on the age group you're looking at. But pretty much you're looking at between 30 and 79 years old where this is really prevalent. And I think that just like anything, our environment, the world, the foods that we eat can speed up some of these things so that people are struggling with it early on in life. And, you know, like we mentioned, when it comes to women, when you have hormonal changes, it's not always about your age. It could be, you know, environmental. It could be you had an operation that removed something important, like, you know, a hysterectomy or things like that. But for men, I think that one of the things that I've been finding is that like our diets, exercise, all those things can lead to you having an early onset of low testosterone.
Right. And like, I don't know if you're going to jump into it right now, but what I read was basically at the age of 30 is when men's testosterone levels start to dip. Like it's at the highest for men and women in their 20s. And then for men, it starts to dip in their 30s.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I read too. And that's big because I think that it's also when men are less active. And so for many men that, let's just say you don't have a healthy lifestyle, like you don't have a, you know, very specific workout regimen, you don't necessarily watch what you eat, you don't have a supplemental regimen. And then you get into your 30s, you start to have a family, you start to be more sedentary, and all of those things lead to quickly the diminishing of your testosterone over time, right? And also keep in mind, like, if you're listening to this and you're a man and you're like, oh, I'm good. Every morning I wake up and things are good. And for most people who don't know, and hopefully you do, men wake up with an erection early in the morning, and it's a good detection or indication that you've got good testosterone. So
is that your first, like, that's your first thing?
That's your first thing.
Eddie Copeland, when you wake up in the morning.
If I wake up and I'm like,
hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Then you know you're okay.
Okay. But the thing that I'm really realizing through research, that your testosterone levels can spike and dip throughout the day, right? And so you can also have that throughout the night. And so you may have a morning where things are not really going on, right? And so that may be an indication that you had something you did or something you participated in lowered your testosterone. And so you woke up and you didn't have an erection. But I think that it's important to know that because of the fluctuations, it is hard to detect whether you are actually struggling with low testosterone.
But that's an indicator. Like if
that is one of the indicators.
So if you're a teenage boy, you have a teenage son, or you are a 40-year-old man, 50-year-old man, if you wake up in the morning, like every guy goes through that. I mean, I don't have one, so I'm asking.
Every guy goes through that.
Well, that's good to know.
You wake up with a.
I'm gonna start checking. Just kidding.
just to make sure. And another indicator is all of a sudden you gain weight, right? Or you have what you would call man boobs, right? And so that's man boobs is probably one of the first things I've ever noticed, and saying, not for myself, but in others, when I'm saying, wow, that person may struggle with low testosterone because of the fact that they actually have, breasts for a man, right? And so that's something that you want to make sure you really understand that something's going on with your body.
Okay.
So the other thing is I wanted to talk about, but did you have another letter or anything?
No, I kind of summarized it because it was long, but I just want to thank people for writing in, for reaching out, for sharing their struggles. And there were a lot of women, we'll circle back, but there were a lot of women that said, you need to do an episode on women that are in menopause, that it's not by choice. It's not by age. Like you said, like maybe you had breast cancer in your 20s and you can't take hormones like getting older. One of my girlfriends, I believe Sarah, had cervical cancer or some sort of, I can't remember exactly what it was. Sorry, Sarah. But that put her into menopause.
Right.
She's like, share my story because this is not an age thing. This is just, I don't have a choice in the matter. And that's even more agonizing,
right,
and difficult to kind of get yourself through and like accept. And so, yeah, we'll circle back on that, but back to the penises. Is it penisi? Penis? Just
so
kidding.
I think one of the things I want to make sure we accomplish is, like, it's important to know like we mentioned, there are greater things that can happen to you than just, erectile dysfunction.
From a lack of testosterone.
Yeah, from a lack of testosterone, which I want to rephrase that. There are other things, because I think that psychologically, when you feel like you cannot perform for sex, or when you have an attractive wife and you're beautiful and like you want to have that intimacy and it's just not working, and
that can be frustrating.
That can be frustrating, right? And then it's also a stigma to it, right? And so I think that that's super important. But I mean, so people may be thinking, okay, so what do I need to do?
Right.
Like, what are some of the things that I could do to increase my testosterone? So we'll talk about that. But where I really want to first start with is, what are things you're doing right now that are lowering your testosterone?
Okay.
Right. So number one is poor diet. Processed sugary foods are low in nutrients, can decrease your testosterone production. And just know that testosterone, it's basically, you need precursors in order for testosterone to be activated, right? And so those precursors are all part of androgen, right? And so androgen is the group of hormones that produce testosterone, and there are areas in your body that you can activate that will help you produce testosterone, but also there's ways to destroy it. And so poor food eating is a way to disrupt the androgen process of actual testosterone being produced in the body.
Okay.
And
so if you have a sweet tooth and you have dessert every night, that could be a problem.
Right. And so I think it's up to 57% of people, men who have type 2 diabetes, also have low testosterone, right? So obviously you can see the relationship there. The second thing is lack of exercise. And I know that sounds obvious, but the inactivity can lower your testosterone because of the fact that typically, because you're getting older, you're not doing things to stimulate that, right? And so exercise is a way to stimulate testosterone, but there's also a specific way to do that as well.
Specific type of exercise as well. So for example, like let's just say that you're a man that has a desk job,
right?
You're engineer, an accountant, whatever. You've got a desk job. You need to start lifting weights, because going for brisk walks, that's also going to lower your testosterone. Like 100%. You've got to lift weights.
And so I want to talk about this exercise piece, because those that are chronic cardio folks, so women and men, a surefire way to lower your testosterone for women and for men is to do too much cardio. And what I mean by too much cardio, I mean that means cardio every day, right? Because cardio every day reduces those large muscle groups, because you lose muscle, right? And so within your muscle groups, especially the large muscle groups, your legs, your glutes, your chest, shoulders, all these areas are where testosterone is stored, and that's where it's produced. So if you do too much cardio, so everything you do is you either ride a bike or you do running, whatever it is, you are impacting that at some point. The great thing is that cardio is good, but in moderations, right? And
Right.
so if
It
you
actually said sex is actually a good heart cardio to do.
right, so if for
Yeah,
have sex.
there's your
There you
exercise.
go.
Well, maybe you have low testosterone, which is impacting your
I know.
libido and it's impacting your erectile dysfunction or causing erectile
Right.
dysfunction. So then you need to go lift some weights.
Right. And so we'll talk a little about what type of weight training actually is the most beneficial.
Okay.
Excessive alcohol consumption.
Wait, sorry, going back. Is it fair to say that the least amount, the less muscle you have as a man, the lower your testosterone is?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
That's
so
a really important thing to know.
Right. And so I think for the people who've like, oh, I've just, all I do is run.
Or I've never really lifted weights.
I never really lifted.
I like being outdoors. I hike. Okay.
Right. And let's just say there's weights and there's resistance training. And so I think both are going to be important.
Okay.
But, for men and for women specifically, you've got to incorporate some type of weight training that is heavy. And so we'll get into that. But
lucky for me, I hate cardio. I love lifting weights. So, and the girls are like that too. It makes you feel strong. You feel powerful. And I would think the same is true for men. Like even if you didn't grow up going to the gym and you haven't developed the habit as an adult, and you prefer to go on walks or runs or something, I think knowing what we're discussing now, like, hey, the more muscle that I have, then the higher my testosterone is. Like I'm picking up a dumbbell tonight.
100%. Think squats, think sex.
Okay.
Right. So
squat down 4 sets.
No, I'm just saying, think like the correlation. So if you're not a person that likes to lift weights, especially if you're a woman and are like, oh, I don't want to get buff.
Right.
Oh my
you're
goodness,
not gonna get
you're
buff.
not going to get buff. And just let me just say, let's take a commercial break for that. Been
Get on your soapbox.
Yeah, I was in the fitness industry for a long time, and every single time I would talk to someone, especially a woman, I would say, "Hey, you need to lift weights." So women and men had two different types of responses. Women would say, "Oh, I don't want to get buff," and I would say, "Trust
Honey,
me,
you're not.
I've been working out for a long time, and I'm trying to get buff.
Right.
There's no way that."
Overnight,
year of lifting weights, you can walk out and go, "Oh my God, I can't even touch my shoulders." Right? You're okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine. And then men say, oh, I want to lose weight first and then lift weights.
Yeah.
So you want to drop your testosterone first by doing too much cardio, and then you want to try to bring it back. Okay, that's not going to work.
Yeah,
so
these are gym myths.
These are myths that people use a lot. So if this is for you, I'm glad we were able to touch your soul with this truth. So number 3 of ways, third way to reduce your testosterone is chronic alcohol abuse. So those that drink a lot, alcoholics, or you drink too much, it can damage your testosterone. It can damage your testes, and it inhibits your ability to produce testosterone.
Okay, so sugar and alcohol. Testosterone killers.
100%. Number 4 is stress. High levels of stress and chronic production of cortisol, the stress hormone, negatively impacts your overall testosterone levels. And cortisol, it can reduce your body's ability to produce testosterone. And so it's basically a blocker for the production of testosterone. So finding meditation, finding ways to reduce stress is super important. Ashwagandha, the herb, or I don't think it's, maybe it's, I think it's an herb. Yeah. Is a great natural way of taking something that helps you calm yourself. So if you're a person that is high strung, it is impacting.
I've taken that.
Yeah, there you go. Ashwagandha. There we go. Poor sleep. This is the one that I struggle with. Wreaks havoc in me.
Because you don't listen to me. I tell you all the time you need more sleep, and you're like, I feel great. Okay, yeah. Well, then after you read this, you were like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get more sleep. I'm not
7 to 9 hours of quality sleep is super important.
7 to 9,
and it's optimal for testosterone levels.
Okay.
Obviously, obesity, what we just talked about, being overweight. Obviously, in a lot of cases, when you're overweight and you have excess body fat, especially in the stomach area. So fellas, if you're out there and you specifically, you can have great legs, right? You can have great shoulders,
but you got a big belly.
You're in the path of low testosterone, right? You're going on that journey. And so
you can't hit leg day every day, and you can't have chest day every day.
Well, you can't just be a crazy, like, I eat anything I want and I go and I just lift weights. And then you get this, you've seen it,
Well, that's for my brother-in-law, Mitchell, who told me he didn't want to eat vegetables. He's like, no, I just take green supplements.
Oh, yeah.
I said, Mitchell, grow up. Honestly.
Yeah. Anytime we hear people that are adults and they say, oh, I don't eat vegetables, I say, you know what? it's time to reparent yourself.
I say grow up.
Grow up.
You need vegetables. We got to eat things we don't necessarily like sometimes to stay healthy.
No, that's so funny. And so the crazy thing is that the abdominal fat can lead to lower testosterone levels because it's converting testosterone into estrogen. And so the belly fat is super important.
Well, I'll just tell you, women don't necessarily like that. It's not one of those things. We don't want belly fat on us, and we don't want it on our man. And so if we have belly fat, there's a problem. If you have belly fat, there's a problem. And if it's taking away your testosterone, like, we just need to figure that out.
Yeah. And I think that
Cutting out the sweets and the alcohol.
Two bellies make it hard to reach. So let's move on. Number 7. Number 7 is exposure to chemicals that can disrupt. So endocrine is a disruptor, and so those are found in plastics. So those that are drinking out of water bottles, plastic water bottles, those plastic water bottles obviously have a chemical, and that chemical is something that can definitely impact your ability to actually create testosterone.
So get you a hydro flask.
So drink out of glass or drink out of a hydro flask if you can. Smoking and using illicit drugs, I think that's a no-brainer. But smoking cigarettes is definitely a way to lower testosterone, and taking opioids. So not a really good thing. Stay away from
Don't be a crackhead.
Don't be a crackhead. And then this is a big one that most people don't know. Excessive caffeine intake, right? So obviously moderate caffeine, especially drinking black coffee, can be very good for you.
Like a cup a day.
But because of the fact that you're drinking, Red Bulls, or you're drinking Monsters, and you drink back to back. I know people who drink like
Jasmine's boyfriend,
right? Multiple energy drinks of 200 milligrams of caffeine.
We're sending that to Sam.
Right, plus a day is a way to reduce your testosterone, because it spikes your cortisol levels of stress.
Yeah.
Right. So you're creating stress, and so it's a blocker for testosterone. And so I think that those are some of the key things that I just wanted to make sure we touch on, that people are doing to reduce our impact, the ability to produce testosterone.
So how do you build and create testosterone?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So you talked to a very specific person. I won't name them because I don't want to out them. And they were talking about taking steroids.
Oh, I should name them. Someone I love was like, oh yeah, I've been working out for the last 3 months, but my muscles aren't growing fast enough. I think I'm going to start taking some roids. And I was like, yeah, how about you don't? Like, why don't you give it a year and like, a lifetime, by the way, you're in your 30s, of not working out, and then switching over to, yes, I work out for 3 months, expecting in 90 days you're going to be ripped. So he was like, yeah, I think I'm just to start taking some roids. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't think you should do that.
And then he paid me the greatest compliment that I could be paid.
Which was?
And he said, be honest.
Oh, yeah.
How much? Then he asked you, how much steroids does Eddie take?
Yeah. He asked me, he's like, come on, Janelle, be honest. I was like, when we were bodybuilding, I told him if he did that and it impacted his penis in any way, we were done. Because I was like, no, then that would be something you did to ruin that.
Right.
And that's selfish.
And I've never taken steroids.
Never. For the record, look into the camera and tell people.
I have never taken steroids. I am all natural here.
Yeah.
And so I think the reason why I brought that up is because some people may be thinking, okay, if I have low testosterone, then I should take steroids, which is
go to the roid man.
Right. The problem with that is that
it's not the same.
It's not the same, and usually the outcomes are very different, right? And so anabolic steroids is basically like just pumping yourself with a synthetic steroid, which is really about growing outside the natural growth of yourself, right? And then also, so mostly bodybuilders, but also performance athletes, right? So you're trying to get faster, and so you would take a steroid to accomplish that. The problem with that is that leads to liver damage, that can lead to cardiovascular problems, psychological effects. I mean, people say this dude is juicing, and that's why he's all freaking out.
Flipping cars and shit.
Right. And so then you also throw your hormones out of balance, because your body's like, I got this hormone, so I'm going to stop producing this hormone. Right. And so the problem with that, and so if we did you name the person?
No, I didn't.
If you tell the person, if you take it, then you setting yourself to have to take it forever because your body, or you take it and you're going to have to do something medically to get your testosterone to reactivate again, because your body's saying you already have the hormone, so I don't have to produce it.
Right.
And that's not what you want. And then obviously infertility is something I think people are well known about steroids. So the other thing that you can do before we get into the natural ways that you can take hormone replacements, like we talked about when it comes to menopause.
So go see a doctor.
Right. And so that is different.
Right.
Right. And so that is, it's monitored. They know how much testosterone you need. You also could probably express like, what you're trying to accomplish with your body and in your life, and they can give you the appropriate amount. And that will be a better outcome, and you lower the risk of all the other things that can happen. All right. And so when you think about like what you can do, we talked a little bit about all the things that can come along that, but I want to make sure we say that this one thing, like, erectile dysfunction is part of it, but I want to make sure that people understand low testosterone can lead to mood disorders, fatigue, loss of muscle and strength, bone density, body fat, cardiovascular risk, cognitive decline, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, and then reduced quality of life.
Yeah.
And so all of those things, in addition to not being able to, get it up anymore and perform, are all things that you got to be really, really, thoughtful of.
Right.
And so, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I don't want, we thought long and hard about the episode, like content, because we don't want to be like, hey, you should definitely cut out sugar. You should work out and you should just live an active, healthy lifestyle. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Everybody knows that. Like that's literally the cure for everything, right? But for men, I think it's even more important that as you age to know you're already losing testosterone. The loss of testosterone causes all of these, significant things that could damage your long-term health.
Right.
And then if you continue to do, the sedentary lifestyle, not work out, continue to not lift weights, continue to eat the sugar, continue to do this, it's like the decline of the testosterone that your body is naturally not producing, coupled with all of these bad habits, it's going to amplify the speed or increase the speed that your body is decreasing the production of testosterone.
Right.
So you can either age gracefully and maybe supplement by going to a doctor, or you can age poorly and speed up the fact that your body is going to just stop making testosterone, which makes everything else worse.
100%.
And so I think these are things that we want to talk about, especially as you get closer to 30, 40 and beyond, because you're trying to hopefully maintain some sort of, health and wellness, so that way, as you get older, you're still a silver fox and you can still
get your groove on.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing is no one wants to be a shell of their former self, right? And I think that to me is probably the most frustrating, and I think the thing that leads to the Great Depressions that people go through is because I remember who I used to be. I remember how much fun. I remember how much energy I had. And your mind remembers it, but your body is a whole different thing.
Right.
And now your mind is now impacted by all the things that impact that have been impacting your testosterone. And so now your cognitive decline is there. And so I think that all these things should be taken really seriously. And if you are avoiding living an active lifestyle or taking care of yourself, just think about 10 years from now, right? And you wanting to live a certain life, but you can never capture that again, right? Or you've got to really radically change your life at some point in order to have the life of vitality that you want to have.
Right.
So a couple things you can do. One of the things I think that is an easy thing to do is go outside, get some vitamin D, right? Vitamin D is huge because it is a way. Sun exposure is a natural way to increase vitamin D, but it's linked to higher testosterone because of the fact that we have cholesterol all over our skin, and when the sun's rays hit our skin, our bodies create vitamin D. Vitamin D is a precursor along with cholesterol to creating testosterone in your body.
Well, what if you have someone who's he drinks alcohol, likes to party, does the occasional drugs, but he definitely likes to tan. He's vacationing, lays out in the sun all the time.
Well, and then he's probably...
That's a problem. You're okay with vitamin D then.
You're okay with vitamin D. And the crazy thing about this is he would probably help himself more
if he took off his clothes.
If he took his clothes off. So vitamin D or sun exposure to the penis area actually increases
your testes.
Your testes. I was going to say your balls. Your balls get a little sun and all of a sudden...
Wait,
so
if you didn't hear that, Eddie said when your balls get a little sun, then what? It increases your vitamin D, which helps make testosterone.
Well, it increases your vitamin D, which helps your
I
testosterone
actually
levels.
Knew that, and you just found that out today because Tim Ferriss in his book,
No, I knew that before.
Body, he's like, oh yeah, I definitely go outside and sunbathe for like 15 minutes with my stuff out.
Yeah, so if you have a private yard, no people around, and you want to get that testosterone pumping, go outside in the sun and enjoy yourself. For the wives or spouses listening to this, tell your husband, go outside, create a little tent or cover for them. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so we talked about exercise. Exercise obviously is a huge one, but compound lifts. What that means is deadlifts, squats, lifting that requires multiple muscle groups to be activated is those areas where the testosterone is stored, and it produces a ton of testosterone in your body. So make sure you are exercising, but you're doing heavy weightlifting, right?
I just want to say, like, if you've never really lifted weights, like let's say my dad,
right.
I was like, Dad, you're living in a new place. You've got all this free time on your hands, like go to the gym, That's not to say, and he said, I've never really been a big gym guy. I like to be outside. Okay, well, you need to lift some weights as you get older. We've already talked about this with him. That's not to say when you say lift heavy weights that he should go hurt himself.
No. So, and that's a great thing to bring up. I think you have to be gradual. If you're not a person that has exercise frequently, go and do it in moderation.
Right.
Heavy lifting for you is use a machine to do leg exercises or leg presses or leg extensions, like things like that, where you can use the machine. As you get stronger, you have more balance, then you can do the compound lifts of like a squat or a deadlift. But don't hurt yourself just because you heard on the Push podcast. You got to go lift for heavy weights.
We are not doctors.
Right. We're not trying to have you hurt
with
yourself.
Your physician, please.
Yeah, but definitely ease into it.
I think just like not to complicate it, start with resistance training.
Right.
That could be a band. Then
that could be just
a machine.
Air.
Then that could be a small dumbbell, like whatever. And then as you get stronger and more familiar with the moves, then increase the weight.
Yeah.
Done.
Air squats.
Move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Air deadlifts, all those things, and then again add to it as you go. Just like we talked about the reduction of testosterone, it comes down to your eating. The increasing of testosterone comes down to your eating healthy fats. Foods like eggs, fatty fish, avocados, nuts, all those support testosterone production. Minimize your stress, meditate, take yoga, right? Mindfulness.
So all the same things.
All the same things. Get sleep, limit your alcohol.
Same stuff.
Is
there
anything just in reverse.
That you realized, like in doing all this research, that is something other than the sleep that you're going to change to continue, other than the sleep and exposing your balls to the sun?
Well, I think drink out of plastic bottles. I think I already have a hydrogen
water.
Yeah, I have a hydrogen, drink out of glass, or I drink out of some type of metal. I think the one thing I also learned was doing more high intensity trainings. So like I do compound lifts, but I don't do a lot of HIIT training, right? And so HIIT training is another great way, but also zinc. And so I read that consuming zinc-rich foods, so foods that are high in zinc, like oysters, I eat beef, pumpkin seeds and lentils in your diet.
I love lentils.
Are really great for producing testosterone. And so I think that those things you want to make sure, I didn't really know that you incorporate. But the big thing is to know like everyone is going to be affected. No one's immune to this, right? You're going to lose testosterone as you get older.
Right.
But these are ways to keep some of your testosterone or increase if you've lost too much.
So the studies that I read say that the decrease in testosterone starts at 30, and it's much more gradual for a man to lose testosterone than it is a woman. Like you hit menopause and basically it's almost like over for you.
Right.
But men is generally speaking after 30, it decreases, your testosterone level goes down by 1 to 2%. That's
Right.
healthy average. And, you know, there are some men that in doing this research that we are friends with that are like, oh yeah, I've done testosterone hormone therapy. Perfect. That's
Right.
great.
Right.
Couple that therapy with lifting some weights and eating healthy and doing all of this other stuff and you'll be golden.
Right. And I think that that's the thing. Like, know that there's many ways to do this. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to how well you treat yourself, right? And
Yeah.
so if you're asking your body to perform in the thing that you enjoy doing probably the most, and that's having sex, then you got to do other things to make sure that you're ready for it. And I think that sometimes what you'll find is that people will just say, hey, I'm going to have this unhealthy lifestyle. I'm going to drink excessively. I'm going to eat excessively. I'm going to live this life, and I'm just going to pop a pill of Viagra, but not to keep in mind that, hey, the cognitive decline that you're headed towards is not going to be great.
Yeah.
The fatigue, all the things that make you can't just pop a pill for.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that that's
some
something
things
that's
that
really
I
important.
wrote down to like why this is important, like, you know, understanding that the decline's gradual. So your body and everything is going to change, but also like symptoms can be subtle. And so you got to kind of pay attention, right? Like decreased libido, increase in body fat, more fatigue. Maybe you're testy and like moody lately, like, you know, your mood often be something that people say like, oh, you're just getting older. Well, you could be getting older, which we all are, but you could also just be rapidly decreasing your testosterone. So
Right.
kind of like look out for those subtle changes. And then another thing is like, yeah, this stuff doesn't sound fun. Like you cutting out sugar, saying no to dessert, going to the gym if you've never done that. But I think for us, like our lifestyle matters.
Right.
And we want to be able to play a significant role in like everyday things with our kids as we get older, grandkids. And so I think now's the time, if you're listening to this, to ask yourself, well, what kind of lifestyle do I want to live as I age? Do I want to gracefully age, or am I cool with just like, hey, one day waking up and shit just doesn't work?
Right.
And that's really important to me. Like when there's things that I don't want to do around health, I'm like, what would 80-year-old Janelle say to me? 80-year-old Janelle would be like, girl, thank you so much for
Right.
taking those vitamins. 80-year-old Janelle is like, thank you so much for lifting heavy weights. Like I'm in my 80s now and I feel great. And so think about the lifestyle that you want your 80-year-old self to be living and maybe start to do things to honor him or her now.
Yeah, and I think that it's oftentimes when people like will see me eat, or they'll make comments about our diet, they're like, "Oh, you got to live a little, you got to
Right.
like." But I'm always thinking, I want a high quality of life,
So I can live.
and I don't
Yeah.
want. I'm not just eating it just so I live long. I
Right.
want it to be quality, and quality incorporates having sex with my wife.
Right.
Quality
Thank
incorporates
you for that.
being able and feeling able,
Mhm.
right? Like, I think that that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, waking up and feeling your best. There are so many people right now that feeling horrible is their norm,
Mhm.
and they mitigate all these feelings with
And to-
caffeine, with all these
Right.
different things that make them feel good for a moment, or make them feel able for a moment to
Mhm.
complete the task, but they're not living a quality life.
Well, I think to those people, what I'd say is it gets worse.
Right.
So if you wake up in the morning and you don't feel rested and refreshed, it's going to get worse as you get older. If you wake up in the morning and you've got like chronic pain, or, you know, you're lethargic and it just like, it takes you some time to warm up,
Right.
it's going to get worse. And so focusing on those small, subtle symptoms now, I think can help make your 80-year-old self really proud. But another thing is like to remember lifestyle matters, but it's not just about the sex drive, right? It's about like mental health for me. Like I don't want, my biggest fear is like Alzheimer's, dementia. Like I don't want that. Men get those things too.
Right.
And so if we're not aging gracefully and taking these things, as something serious that will determine whether we age gracefully, have a good quality of life in the long run, I think this is like maybe the wake up episode that you needed. And the other thing is like there are treatments to these things, but like, for example, my grandmother's been married to an alcoholic for 45 years. His body, now that he's in his 80s, is starting to deteriorate. Everything's shutting down. His liver, he's losing his mind. You know, you lost your teeth. And it's really putting my grandmother through like an awful quality of life.
Right.
And, you know, she's one of those women that's like, honey, I said till death do us part, in better, you know, sickness or in health. And I'm like, yeah, but I understand that you're upset with him and he's upset with himself. He's mad because he can't do the things he used to do and his body's falling apart. And she's telling him, well, you made these decisions. Like, you did this to yourself. And I go, but grandma, he didn't just do this to himself. He did it to you. And that's my issue. It's like, well, it's impacting my grandmother's golden years now because you're having to care for someone who fucking neglected his health, and it makes me angry. Right. And so if you were to be completely neglecting your health, I don't want to be responsible for you. I love you, but if you are in your 30s and 40s and 50s not taking care of yourself, how is that? Like, I don't want to be responsible for that. I want to live my life and be healthy and have a good quality of a lifestyle. And if you choose not to, to me, it's a deal breaker in a relationship. Yeah. And we've joked before, like, we always get fit together. We've done bodybuilding competitions together, and then we get fat together. Right. When I say fat, I mean, hey, we're eating brownies this month. You know, like, we're going to eat whatever we want. But back to your point, like, someone told me recently when I was like, yeah, as I get older, like, I really have to monitor like how much sugar I have. Like, she told me, well, you just need to live a little. Like, life's about balance. And I was like, yeah, I get it. But like, I want to live long. Right. And so if I have to say no to the cookie, I'm okay with that today. And I don't cut out all sugar. I actually very much love sweets, but I can't have dessert every single night like I did in my 20s, maybe. Right. And so just remembering that, you know, people are going to judge you regardless. They're going to judge you if you're overweight and unhealthy. They also judge you really like a lot if you're healthy. Right. And that pisses me off. Right. Oh, I don't know how you eat like that. Okay.
Who has time to do that? Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that, like, you know, there's a lot of, I know parents that listen to the podcast. And one of the things I think that.
You mean our parents?
No, just parents in general. Uh-huh. One of the things I think that is important is keeping in mind that as you're raising kids, you have to take care of yourself, because now that we're at the kind of we've reached this place of empty nest. Like, if we were wildly out of shape and now we have to spend a few years getting in shape and not being able to enjoy this time right now, that would be heartbreaking. Right. And I think that so many parents and so many individuals that are raising kids are putting off their health, and they're saying, I don't have time because of the kids. And we get it. Yep. We get it. But you have to find a plan of some sort with your spouse to make this a priority, because what's going to happen is your relationship will deteriorate because you're not taking care of your health. And in all good intentions, you love your partner, you want to be supportive, but if your hormones change because you're not at a rapid rate because you're not taking care of yourself, or you're not testing your hormone levels, what ends up happening is that's what's going to happen, and you won't have a relationship to rekindle when the kids are open or are gone.
And I've been, you know, talking to a lot of women lately about the importance of health and stuff, but really, to me, what's more important than what you just said is being able to be the role model for my kids. So, for example, I'm really proud of the fact that our whole life that the kids can remember, we've had a fitness routine only because we wanted our kids to not battle their weight. We wanted our kids to be fit and healthy. And so if you want fit and healthy kids, you have to be a fit and healthy role model.
100%.
And that's like the biggest thing that I think, like a woman I ran into the other day literally said, I'm trying to like reprogram my kids because I didn't make good choices when they were younger around health and food, and now they're struggling. And so the whole family now is kind of going over like through this overhaul of healthy food now. because it wasn't instilled in the kids when they were younger, and now as like young adults they're struggling with their weight.
Right.
And that's just something, like, if you've got young kids, and I mean like newborns, toddlers, you have to, I'm telling you, being on the other side, you have to remember that your kids are not going to listen to what you say. They're going to watch what you do.
100%.
And so if you want fit, healthy kids that are not struggling with confidence levels and, you know, health issues, you need to be a fit, healthy adult, role model, and parent for them.
And, you know, one of the things that we taught them early on is that everyone needs their own personal workout routine, right? And I think that they've done that.
Yeah.
I mean, through us working out with them,
Right.
through us taking them to the gym and showing them how to go into the gym and how to use the equipment and all those things. Because when you don't do that, and keep in mind, kids live a less active lifestyle than we did, right? And so when they're in their teenage years, and let's just say they're not a part of any sports, you have to start showing them how, like, you know, what to do when they go into gym, how to work out at home. Like, all those things are important, because over time, like, either they're going to have to reparent themselves when they get older, or they're going to be in this position where they're wildly out of shape when they get into their 20s. And that's just the recipe for disaster for the entire life.
I mean, especially if you have girls, you know, like the confidence levels, the comparison, like, and I'm just going to say, like, our kids are healthy, thank God, and they all have their own individual health routine. But when we were trying to be the role models and they were little, we bought kettlebells, we bought squat bars, right? We bought yoga mats, things like that. They did Insanity with us when they were really younger. When they got older, we bought a Peloton. And when we bought a Peloton, we didn't just buy shoes our size, we bought shoes their size too.
Right.
And so helping them see that the things that we're doing for our fitness are also for them. I'm not even going to be mad or embarrassed to say this, but we lied about their ages to get them gym memberships early, so that way we could take them with us to the gym. And so we could be the ones to show them how to properly squat, how to properly lift weights. And so I am really, really proud that we did that, because they are all very fit and they all have their own individual like plan that they know, like, oh, I feel like crap because I haven't been working out. I need to go lift
when they're
some
all
weights.
home, they're every day they're like, I'm working out, I'm going to the gym.
And we like, hey, are you going to the gym with me? Or are you going to go to the gym with her? It's just part of our lifestyle. And I am very proud of that.
Yeah. And so I guess we'll say all that to say, like, you know, in the last two episodes, we've really talked about this concept of health and especially from a hormone standpoint. And when we're talking about exercise and eating, these are all things to help you as your body changes. I don't know if we're going to find out a surefire way to stop your body from changing and staying youthful, but what you can do is support it in many different ways, whether it be eating, exercise, or supplementation that you can take to keep you feeling vibrant. And I think that that's what matters the most to your relationships, to your overall quality of life. And so we hope this is kind of a helpful kick in the butt for you, or maybe a spark of inspiration, or maybe it was just really informative. Either way, I think it's going to be helpful for you.
Last thing I want to say is, like, one of our neighbors, a house sold recently. I forgot to tell you, but one of our neighbors used the comment. I was like, oh, they redid that house. He goes, yeah, they put lipstick on a pig though. And the concept of, you know, that term, putting lipstick on a pig, it immediately reminded me of, you know, as women, we get Botox, we get our nails done, we get our hair colored, we get balayage, we get all of this stuff. Men too. There's things that you guys do to feel good. You buy Jordans, you collect clothes, you wear a fancy suit. But like, really, the inside is really what we should be focused on. And so when I started going to the doctor and asking questions about hormone health, like I told you today, the blood panel alone that I did was $1,200. Luckily, we have good insurance and I only pay a couple $100s for that. But I don't want to put lipstick on this pig. Like, I don't want to.
You're not a pig.
I know, but I use that as a, like, I don't want to be getting Botox and doing all of this like external stuff to fix the shit that I'm ruining from the inside that's now coming out.
Right.
I feel like it's counterintuitive. I feel like you're wasting money. And I would rather spend the money, like immediately when we got like, hey, this is the estimate for like hormone therapy. I was like, I could go without so many things, but I'm not going to compromise when it comes to my health.
100%.
So just kind of wanted to leave you with that. If you are a woman who gets your nails done, you get your lashes done, you get your hair done, like these things are religious. You get a pedicure every week. That's great. But what are the other habits that you can be taking on that are not just beauty related? Because eventually all of that stuff fades and it costs more to maintain it and to keep it up.
Right.
But if we started with health, that would impact our hormones, that would impact our mental health, that would impact the lifestyle that we live when we're 80. I just think it's, so important to not put lipstick on the pig.
Okay, but so, that's your final push, y'all.
Final thought, yeah.
Don't put lipstick on the pig. Put lipstick in the inside.
Yeah. It's like putting Viagra on the penis.
It is.
That's exactly what it is.
100%.
So we get Botox, fillers, that kind of thing. You guys get Viagra. If we maybe reversed it and tried to do some things to be a little healthier, maybe those were the things we spent money on. The gym,
right.
I don't know, facials,
well,
the tanning of your balls.
Yeah, before you end your relationships or you go down this path of not, you're getting older and you seem like you're not vibing, go get your hormones checked. Because something could be drastically going on internally that it is ruining your relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that this is something I think we've stumbled across, and we'll try to get some experts and to help us with this, because I don't think this is the last time we'll talk about these topics.
And also just remember to communicate with your partner.
Yeah.
Because I think whether you're married, dating, whatever, I think talking about things like this, like share this episode, share the vagina episode and, the erectile dysfunction episode, share these with your friends and with your family. And I think they're good conversation starters to like, hey, did you know this happens with our body? And it's not that we want to be on a place of like standing on a soapbox telling everybody to be healthy. We've definitely made unhealthy choices, right. And sometimes we do, but
right.
It's about just helping to educate each other and living a great life. So
let's do it.
Hopefully this was helpful for you. Share it with a friend and family. Leave us a comment. Send us an email. EddieandJanelle@gmail is the first one that comes to mind, but I'll link it in the show notes for you guys. Have a great time transforming your health, I guess.
100%.
Yeah. We'll see you soon.
Push through.
Bye.